Hey, what's up, you guys? WWE Fan 0599 here again, and welcome back to WWE Fans TV Recap Show. And today's recap show will be for Ash versus Evil Dead. So this week's episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead is entitled Books from Beyond. So, before we get into this episode, of course, I gotta warn you, there will be spoilers. So, if you have not seen this episode, please do not watch this review. But, if you have seen the episode, or if you just don't care about spoilers, continue on watching. So, let's get on with this episode. So, what this episode is basically about, it's about Ash, Kelly, and Pablo. They're going to go to the Books from Beyond, store to meet the guy that knows how to translate, the book. So that's, and some stuff happens in the episode. So yeah. So what did I think of this week's episode? Another absolutely awesome episode. I love this episode as well. This episode was just so awesome. Such a great episode. I loved this episode, man. It was just such a great episode. I loved this episode. Just such an incredible episode, in my opinion. So yeah. So let's get into my positives. And my positives are the acting with the episode. The acting was great from everybody, Bruce Campbell, of course, as Ash. Always awesome to see, Bruce Campbell as Ash. He's great in this episode. He did such an awesome job. I really enjoyed him. He did such a great job in this episode, he was just so awesome. I loved Bruce Campbell in this episode. He did such a great job as Ash. Loved him in this episode. So yeah. The guy who plays Pablo, he's awesome. Man, I am loving Pablo. Pablo's just so awesome. He really is. Just, Pablo was, the guy who played Pablo was great. I like the woman who played Kelly. She was great as well, Everyone was really good in this episode, Everyone did a great job, so yeah. The comedy is absolutely awesome, Just the comedy just hits at every single moment. Like, when you see them in the car and Ash is like, maybe we'll stop and get some churros afterwards. Now, Pablo, that's not a racist thing towards you because you're Mexican. It's just a delicious treat. Pablo's like, yeah, okay. I'm not Mexican, right? And he's like, that's the spirit. I mean, stuff like that. Stuff like that, man. It's just so funny. Just, yeah, the comedy really works in this episode. It's very, very, very funny. So, yeah. The action's great. The action really was great. Thought the action was great with this episode. The writing's absolutely incredible with the episode. I thought the writing was just spot on. Some great writing. The directing is absolutely awesome as well with the episode. I loved the directing. The directing was absolutely incredible. So yeah. So let's talk about a few moments that happened in the episode, because there were a few moments that did happen in this episode. So first off, when we see, we see Lucy Lawless's character. We see that she's driving and whatever, she's driving and she goes to Kelly's parents' house, and she sees that the dad, she's now one of those things, one of the daywalkers or something like that, and he's still got the fork in his eye, and she's like, was Ash here? And he basically won't answer, and she she takes him, puts him through the cross, so he still won't talk. So she takes out this sword and starts cutting his face all around here. So yeah. Then we move on when they get to the store. The cop's there. The cop, the cop from these past few episodes. She was there. And she's about to arrest Ash, and then Pablo comes in with this, I don't know, this bone, and just whacks over the head with it, and he's like, oh shoot, did she just say she was a cop? So yeah, that was pretty funny. And, when also the guy starts explaining what is with the book, some ancient cult or something like that put all the evil inside of one book, and the underworld and our world could be like combined or something, like the underworld, they could take us to the underworld or something like that. And Ash has an idea. Well, no, not really, but Ash was like, maybe we should summon a demon, like a weak demon, to explain how to reverse it. Yeah, great idea, Ash. Just great idea. So that's what they do. And we see, him performing the whole getting the demon out, spell or whatever. And then we see the demon. And if you don't go into the circle, then, it will stay there. So, but guess what happens? Kelly and the police officer, they come in, and Ash stepped into the circle, and now the demon's out. And, like, the demon was, like, doing this sort of, like, thing to their brains. I don't know, it was just some sort of weird thing they were doing to their brains and stuff. So, very intense scene. And then Kelly just hits the demon with the book. And, and also the demon killed the dude who knew how to summon stuff. So, Kelly hits the demon with the book, and the demon goes back into the book. Maybe that's what they have to do. But, yeah. They also cuff the police officer because she tried to arrest Ash again. So, and then they move on their ways. And then we see in the final moment of the episode that the guy who knew how to translate and stuff, he comes back as one of the daywalkers. Now the police officer is trapped in there with him. So yeah. So let's talk about my only two negatives with the episode, because I do have only two negatives with this episode. My first being the CGI at parts. Like, the CGI wasn't all that good. Like, when you see the demon coming out of the thing, like, the CGI wasn't really all that great. And we see him, like, moving the glass and stuff. It looked really bad. So, just the CGI wasn't all that great in the episode. And I thought Lucy Lawless's character was kind of pointless in this episode. Like, can we have waited for, like, next week's episode? Or, it was just really pointless to have her in this episode, because she's only in it for, like, one scene, and then just, like, briefly for, like, 3 seconds in another scene. So, it was kind of pointless to have her character in this episode, so yeah. But besides that, another great episode. I'm loving this series. This series is so awesome. I love Ash vs. Evil Dead. This is awesome, so yeah. So it's time for my official grade on this episode, and my official grade on this episode is an A-. I love this episode. This was just such an awesome episode. So awesome. I loved it, so it's getting an A-. So what you guys think of this week's episode? Leave in the comment section below. And I'm WWE Fan 0599, and we'll see you about later. Peace.